Learning Mandarin Chinese, it can feel like a totally impossible task, right? But what if I told you the reason most people fail has nothing to do with talent? Today, we're going to unpack the methods used by the very few, the 5% who actually succeed.
Okay, let's start with a really stark but super important reality. At least 95% of all Chinese learners give up before they ever reach fluency. Most of them don't even make it past the beginner level. Think about that for a second.
And look, if that 95% number makes you feel a little uneasy, or maybe it even sounds a bit familiar, here's the good news. It's not a personal failing. It's not you. It just means you're probably on the same path, using the exact same broken methods as everyone else. So, in this first part, we're going to explore what separates that successful 5% from everybody else. And we'll start by unpacking the biggest mistakes, the ones that are honestly destroying most learners' progress before they even get started.
You see, most learners fall into one of two camps. On one side, you've got the shotgun. They're frantically trying every app, every textbook, just hoping some magic bullet will make them fluent. Then on the other side, you've got the sniper, obsessing over a single tool, like getting a 600-day streak on a flashcard app. And despite all that effort, neither approach actually leads to real, lasting progress.
So what's the root cause of this? Well, it's something we can call the school mindset. School, for better or worse, teaches us to be really good, obedient workers. Just follow the beaten path and don't ask too many questions. We're trained to see language as just another academic subject to be memorized, not what it really is, a practical skill you acquire.
And this leads to a really, really dangerous trap. It's called the illusion of competence. It's where you spend hours and hours studying, and you feel like you're learning. You feel productive. But when you actually try to speak in a real conversation, nothing comes out. It's all just gone.
There's this incredible personal story from the source material. The person racked up over 1 million points on a flashcard app, memorizing thousands of words. 1 million points. But when he tried to use them in the real world, native speakers would either get completely confused, or sometimes they'd literally laugh. The knowledge was in his head, sure, but it wasn't usable.
So what was going on there? It all comes down to this next huge mistake, rote learning. This is probably the single biggest waste of time for any language learner. It's when you try to force these isolated bits of information into your brain without any meaningful connection, without any context.
The idea of a house built on sand, it's just the perfect metaphor here. Rote learning is so incredibly ineffective because your brain treats the information like a stranger's name you hear at a party. It sees it as useless and it never commits it to long-term memory. So that house of knowledge, it just collapses as soon as you stop reviewing. So this worker mindset, it leads us right into all of these common traps. We rely on textbooks with totally useless topics, like Tang Dynasty poems when you can't even order a coffee. We meticulously copy grammar rules we can't actually use. We attend slow-paced group classes. We chase exam scores. All of it feels productive, but the results when it comes to actually communicating, they're just not there.
Okay, so now we know what not to do. Let's talk about the breakthrough. The thing that changes everything. And it all starts with a really fundamental shift in your mindset.
This is the first major breakthrough. It's about you gotta stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like a player. A worker uses brute force, trying to work against the brain, but a player works with their brain, leveraging its natural strengths to make learning feel effective and, honestly, a lot more like a game.
This whole shift really kicks off when you discover the power of something called comprehensible input. Now, this is a core principle in how we acquire languages, and the idea is actually pretty simple. We acquire language not by memorizing rules, but by understanding messages, by reading and listening to stuff we can actually comprehend.
And once you really get that idea, it leads you to research how the pros do it. How successful polyglots actually learn. And what you find are these incredibly powerful, science-backed techniques that are just way more effective than the old traditional methods.
The first huge discovery is this. Memorizing Chinese characters, it does not have to be a frustrating, mind-numbing task. It's not about being a genius. Seriously, it's all about having the right technique.
And one of the most powerful techniques out there is the memory palace. So instead of copying characters endlessly, you create these vivid, systemized little movie scenes in your mind for each one, linking its parts, its meaning, and its sound all together. And the result? It's wild.
Some learners have mastered 3,000 characters in just a few months using this. Okay, now let's combine that memory technique with a little bit of technology. This is where spaced repetition software, or SRS, comes in, and it is an absolute game changer. It's basically a smart flashcard system that uses an algorithm to make memorization incredibly efficient. It shows you exactly what you need to review right before you're about to forget it.
But here's the thing, and this is so important. SRS is only effective if your flashcards are actually good. A perfect flashcard doesn't just have one isolated word on it. No way. It has a full, comprehensible sentence, native speaker audio, and a relevant image. It's all about context. This is how your subconscious brain just soaks up grammar naturally without you ever having to memorize boring rules.
Now, on top of this highly efficient review system, you then add a daily habit of extensive reading and listening. But again, what's the golden rule? The content must be comprehensible. It has to be at or just slightly above your current level.
So what happens when you combine all these methods? Well, the result is pretty staggering. The person in the source material went from nearly quitting Chinese altogether to passing the HSK6. That's the highest level of the official Chinese proficiency exam. And he did it in just 1 year of part-time study, an achievement that usually takes years of full-time intensive classes.
But hey, what if you want to take your Chinese to an even higher level? What if you want to join that top 1%? Well, here are a few bonus techniques for achieving true mastery.
These 4 advanced techniques can seriously accelerate your progress. First, there's shadowing, where you mimic native speakers to perfect your accent and rhythm. Second, sentence mining, where you actively create your own flashcards from words you find in TV shows or podcasts. Third, creating language islands, basically mastering small topics to build your conversational confidence. And finally, retrieval practice, which trains your brain to actually produce the language, the hardest skill of all.
But look, we have to end on the single most important point. All of these powerful techniques, they're completely useless if you don't actually find the time and show up consistently every single day. With that consistency, reaching fluency won't just be possible, it'll happen faster than you can even imagine. So please, don't just absorb this information. Apply it. The question now is, what are you going to do? Will you continue to be a worker stuck in the old ways, or will you start learning like a player? I really hope this gives you the tools you need to make that choice.